Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to play around with dyeing some rainbow yarn using Dharma acid dyes. I am creating yarn with a specific project in mind, which means you will see a knit project at the end of this video. Yay! I really wish I could provide knit swatches or finished objects in every video, but it's just not possible with the amount of yarn that I dye. Today I am dyeing this yarn for an almost 5-year-old little boy whose favorite color is rainbow. I promised his parents that I would be making him a winter hat this year, and you know, when he said his favorite color is rainbow, I love dyeing rainbows, so I had to get on it and create some yarn specifically for this project. Today we are going to dye 200 grams of KnitPicks Wool of the Andes worsted weight yarn. 100 grams should be enough yarn to make a child-size hat. However, this little friend sat down with me, and when we were talking about the kind of hat that he wanted, in addition to the rainbow request, he wants there to be some ear flaps on it. And so I figured better be safe and dye an extra skein of yarn. That way I have it in case I need it, instead of playing yarn chicken later and potentially running out. I am going to add 4 cups of water to our dye bath. And just see, yeah, I think I want a little more. Let's make it 6 cups. This is why whenever you're following along with maybe a tutorial or something I did, if you add the amount of yarn that I added and it doesn't feel like enough, add more. Or if it feels like too much, add less. So this is one of the reasons why I guess I show this step where I'm checking the water level. I want most of the yarn to be at or above the surface. I want low immersion, but I don't want it to feel too dry. Now we need a little bit of acid. And if I'm doing dry powders on a superwash yarn, the colors will strike fast. I don't necessarily want the colors to strike fast. I sort of want mottled. I don't care if it's specifically speckled or not. But we're going to go ahead and add 1, 2, 3, 4 tablespoons of white vinegar. And just carefully sort of mix it. I did pre-soak the water for around 20-30 minutes or so. But now I am going to turn on the heat and get ready to start dyeing. The technique that I'm doing today of sprinkling the dry powder directly on the yarn and then sort of shimmying it around with a spoon is something that you've seen me do many times before, which is one of the reasons why I am speeding this up. Now, in addition to wearing protective equipment, I'm wearing gloves, a respirator, and safety goggles. I am going ahead and washing my gloves off in between each color, washing and drying. And maybe I need a yarn mop. For our yarn mop today, I'm going to use 100 grams of KnitPicks Chroma Twist Bulky. This yarn is 70% superwash wool, 30% nylon. It's high twist and awesome. I pre-wet the yarn in some water plus vinegar, and in between changing colors, I will be wiping my gloves on this yarn off camera. And I am going to wipe my fingers on that yarn mop I showed you and wash my hands in between each color. Once I am done adding the color, I will probably let things sit for 5 to 10 minutes before flipping the yarn over and adding color to the other side. Ooh, friends, this is a rainbow. Ooh. I think that I am going to make our little friend very, very happy with this one. There is a lot of color in here. I'm wiping the spoon so that way, okay, the orange looks pretty good. Yellow is going well. There's going to be a lot of white left there. The blues and the purples have done pretty well so far. But the greens we did just add recently. So again, I'm hoping to not completely lose those yellows, you guys. That is always a task. Okay, I am going to go ahead and let this sit for 10 minutes. Oh, and how's our yarn mop doing? So nice of you to ask. She is very, very beautiful. 10 minutes are up, but the colors definitely have not quite all exhausted. So I am adding another 2 cups of water with 2 tablespoons of white vinegar to our pan. This way some of those powders, because you can see there's a little bit of red left, just a hint of color here. So I think it's probably okay. There's still a bit of green. Oh good, it is going through. I'm curious what the other side is going to look like, because some of these we might have done a decent job and gotten some good color penetration, and other places we might not have. Like the blues, I think, struck a little faster. Okay, I'm going to let this heat another 10 minutes and hopefully more of that color will absorb. Okay, the 10 minutes are up. It looks like there might still be some hints of color, but you know what? We're going to flip. We're going to go for the flip and see what we got. And honestly, that's not that much color left in there. Although, watch, it's all gonna like hit on our yellow, but that's okay. That is okay. Let's go on to this other side. We definitely need some more purple. Yeah, I think this time around, which I'm going to time lapse again, but this time around I should probably start with the yellow and purple and have green be one of the last colors that I do. Okay, and I do not need to go as heavy this time. This is a note to myself, but I am going to keep going and adding color. I'll put my mask and stuff back on, and yeah, speed this up.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Story simple, yeah, you know it's true. Don't have to tell you, no, I won't convince you. We can't deny, but we can try to make it.
This is a beautiful, deep, saturated rainbow. Yeah, that yellow. The problem with yellow, and I mean I like yellow a lot, but even super saturated yellow is not as like deep and pigmented. Like a super saturated yellow never gets super dark, if that makes sense. And so that's why it tends to get swallowed up a little bit by the neighboring colors, because a little bit of yellow on green might make it a little more yellow green, but a tiny amount of green on yellow shifts it green immediately. But I think that this is beautiful, and I am now going to let everything sit for at least, I think I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for 15 minutes. Yeah, there's a lot of color. Don't really want to touch things, but then we'll come back. As for our beautiful yarn mop over here, I'm going to place this in the steamer basket and steam set it for 30 minutes. Alright, let's add some more water and vinegar. Here's 2 cups of water plus 4 tablespoons of white vinegar. And then another 2 cups of water. We are now not in low immersion anymore, but more like a full immersion. And this way we have a little more space for our yarn. So that way hopefully any residual colors can bind. The only one I'm at all concerned about is this purple, but I also don't mind if there is some white in here. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the color is in the yarn. I'm just sort of taking some precautions. There's definitely like some reds left, probably just because it hasn't dissolved. Okay, I am gonna let this sit for another 20 minutes on low heat, and then we'll come check in. Okay, I'm gonna turn off the heat now, but let's also move our yarn. See, there's a tiny bit of this like halo of color. Just probably going to orangify that yellow, but it's still very beautiful. And I'm going to leave this to cool completely in the steam pan, and then we will wash our yarn. 20 minutes are up. I'm going to turn off the heat and let our yarn mop cool, and we'll wash it around along with the rest of the yarn. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me talk about these reusable nylon zip ties by now. They are great both in terms of functioning as an extra tie and being useful for moving the yarn around. Okay, we are seeing some bleeding here. Just a tiny bit of some green. If that keeps up, then we can just add some vinegar to this wash. I'm adding some clear dish soap, and we will see, yep, I'm still seeing some more green. It's possible that some color didn't set, but it's also possible that there could be just some powder that hadn't gotten dissolved all the way, because this one never soaked in water. I just sort of wiped the powder onto the outside. So again, there's a few ways we could proceed at this point. But let's do another rinse and see what comes out. I'm rinsing with cool tap water. You don't want to do hot tap water because that can cause bleeding. But I want to see if we're going to see the color diminish or not. I mean, there's definitely some color in there. Compared to the yarn itself, it's not a lot. It does seem like there is less than there was, so it's possible that we just had some dye particles on here that did not dissolve completely. I am going to rinse this a few more times and see if the bleeding will stop, and if it doesn't stop this way, I'll come back and troubleshoot with you. A few more rinses and our water cleared, so I don't think an additional vinegar soak is necessary, but that is definitely something that you can do if you are seeing a lot of bleeding and you are concerned. Now let's wash our bright rainbow yarn. The dye bath was completely clear. We did allow the yarn to dry completely. And I'm curious if we're going to see any bleeding in here today. There is some color on the bottom of this wash basin, but it's looking like our color is very much in our yarn. There might be a hint of some bleeding, but given the level of saturated we see in this yarn, that's not bad. I'm going to add some clear dish soap, and we are going to do another bleeding check. And again, if you're seeing bleeding, and especially heavy bleeding, add on some vinegar. Just pour some vinegar in, and yeah, we're seeing some bleeding. So here's what we're going to do. We are seeing that is a reasonable amount of bleeding from those reds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse out the soap, and then I'll come show you how we're going to work on this. We rinsed out that soap, and now I just have some white vinegar and doing a nice healthy glug of it on there. And while that's on there, I'm going to add some water, and I just want to show you We're not going to add a lot of water, but, you know, right now that color isn't coming out. So if you're blocking a shawl or something and you notice some color start to bleed, remove that excess water immediately and add a bunch of vinegar to the soak. But anyway, I'm going to let this soak for at least 30 minutes and then we'll come back and try to wash again. There's no bleeding in the heavy vinegar solution, but what happens if we transfer to some plain water? Now granted, this yarn is not superwash, so I do want to take care when washing it. And we're washing it in pretty low volume of water. We could wash it with some low water, but so far so good. And sometimes it really is just a matter of there being, especially when dealing with powders versus liquid dyes, maybe there's some particles that haven't yet dissolved. So let's try again with the soap. Last time, this is where we saw a lot of bleeding. And I'm seeing a tiny bit. Tiny bit. Let's see if there's more. I mean, compared to the amount of color in there, I think that this is a win. On camera, like in person, I see maybe a tinge of color. On camera, nothing is really picking up. So I would say that we're doing great. Now, if you're still seeing like a ton of color bleed out, and you had already done the vinegar soak, go ahead and add soak the yarn into vinegar again and steam set it. Steam set it, and that will really help. But I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out 2 or 3 more times, and then we will put it to the spin dryer and come back and look at the finished yarn so then I can start knitting it. Woohoo! Here is our rainbow yarn. Once again, the skeins are related but not identical. But given that this is bright rainbow fun, if I were to run out of one and need the second, I don't think it would be horribly noticeable if I switched to a different skein. So I'm only going to go ahead and cake up one of them. I love the mottled nature of the yarn. The Peruvian Highland wool is a little bit like sticky. This is, I wouldn't call this felted, but I might have started to overdo it, and I think I was close to becoming felted. But it is still going to pull apart super easily, and it'll cake up really easily. So, phew! But maybe, you know, keep an eye on all the agitation and washing, and yeah. I twisted these skeins up in 2 different ways, sort of to illustrate a point. They look, I mean, they're the exact same colorway, but they do look different. Like this one looks like it's very green heavy and maybe only has a hint of some of the other colors. Whereas this one, you can sort of look at it and see, okay, this is going to be a repeating rainbow in here. So the way that you put them together and twist up yarn can make a real difference in how the yarn looks and how the yarn reads. And so that's one reason why when you're shopping for yarn, it's worthwhile to open up the skein so that way you can see what the color progression is. Because a lot can be hidden when it's twisted up. And this isn't anything like sneaky or nefarious, it's just the honest truth about the nature of hand-painted, hand-dyed yarn like this. This particular yarn mop technique of having the rainbow powder on my fingers and using that to touch the yarn is quickly becoming an absolute favorite technique of mine. I love the randomness and how it all plays together. There was another occasion where I tried to do this on purpose and I was still thrilled with the results. But there's always something about having no thought and letting this be the afterthought, the wipe, the mop to use up that leftover dye. That is really, really special. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I hope that you enjoyed me taking another look at rainbow yarns. It was a blast to create colorways that are this saturated and intense with acid dyes. I've done tons of rainbows with food coloring, but I've never gotten something this vibrant, saturated as a rainbow with food coloring. It could probably be done. The purple would be hard, but I'm just absolutely in love with how this turned out, and I can't wait to knit with it. The yarn is all caked up, and I am ready to start knitting. I think that this is going to turn into a darling, darling hat, and I think a little boy who requested rainbows is going to be really, really happy. Here is the hat that we made for our family friend. This is, I think, called the garter stitch in-flap hat. I will include a link to the pattern in the video description, but it was super simple, and it took me around 54 grams of the yarn to complete this hat. The rainbow colors play together really well in this rich and saturated hat, and I really hope this will make this soon-to-be 5-year-old really happy. I really hope that you guys enjoyed seeing a finished knit sample at the end of a video. I really wish that this is something that I could do more, but I'm not able to knit with all of the yarn that I dye. I do get a lot of requests for swatches, and one of the main reasons why I don't include a swatch in every video is that the pattern and pooling or non-pooling, micro-striping, or whatever kind of pattern you get from the yarn can vary a lot depending on your gauge, whether you're knitting it flat or back and forth, stockinette or garter stitch. The same yarn can look so different in many different ways that you knit it up. And this is another reason why I enjoy doing some samplers like the Summer Mini Skein mini series, because then you get a few mini skeins of yarn dyed with different techniques that you can play around with and see how they work up. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and if you enjoy my style, subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Don't forget to give this video a like and leave a comment below to let me know what you thought. If you are already a huge fan and want to support us on another level on a continual basis, go and check out the ChemKnits Patreon. I offer behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, early access to new videos, advance notice of shop restocks, and more. You can find a link in the video description and iCard. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.